provide an overview of the software, go through each, the mapping piece, work order, service requests, and do some hands-on demonstrations through the process here, and open to questions. And just to start off with, my name's Rhett Harman. I'm the Service Delivery Manager here at Marshall, and my understanding on your side is it's primarily the wastewater O&M group. I don't know how many people are on your side. I probably don't have time to do introductions with everybody, but I've been working with Las Vegas since about 2001, so on various projects throughout the years here. So, Carol, do you want to just generally tell me who's in the room there? I don't know, have time to do full introductions with everybody, but.
Here, Melody's project manager for Project Eddy. Blom Lee, he's the consultant that is helping us get this off the ground, finally, after all this time. We have Matthew, manager, sanitation area. Justin, who's a program manager. Did I get that right? Okay, program manager. We've got, I don't know everybody. If you just want to say your names real quick.
Tom, it's street rehab.
And then go ahead.
Melvin. Mark, street rehab.
Mike with streets and sanitation. Guy, streets and sanitation.
Jeff, streets and sanitation.
So we have a combination of supervisor, manager, crew leaders, operators, you know, the guys out in the trenches that are actually going to do the work for us.
All right, excellent. Okay, so great, thanks for introductions, and just to give you an overview of the software. So what you're going to be seeing is primarily this piece up above here, which is in the field, which combines a map, basically a map and Infor in the field, and it allows you to go disconnected, so everything, you don't have to worry about network connectivity or anything along those lines. It stores everything locally. So in other words, if you're working on a work order, your drop-down menus are all there. You have a map in the field, service requests, etc. So connectivity does not matter, but you have all of that in one interface for basically combining the Infor data, work order service request, and your map. So you can interact between the map interface and your Infor information in terms of locating work orders, locating service requests, shows you on the map. There's also, for yourself, there's built-in GPS capability just to help you see where you are as it relates to your work in the field and that sort of thing as well. And then all of that goes through what's called our GeoKNX server over to Infor. So when connectivity is made, it then basically GeoKNX server is the handshake. It sends the data over. If you receive new service requests or work orders, those go out to you in the field, and it's basically the communication. The other part of that is we also can configure the mobile client, specifically adding or removing things from the interface to either simplify it, you know, default values, and those sort of things as well. So it's sort of two things with the server. One is it communicates the information back. The other thing is it allows us to configure the interface with certain fields, reordering the fields for you, and so forth. So again, there's really three primary modules of this software. There's a mapping component, which gives you basically digital map books where you have your assets on the map with asset IDs, you know, manhole IDs, with the mains and manholes that you can interact with. Again, you can select a manhole on the map and create a work order off of that. You can view history. You can also locate work orders, and it goes to the map to show you where those are located. Go work, again, is primarily the work orders, and go respond is the service request part of those. So when you log into your laptop or tablet, you'll see an icon that looks a little like this on the screen. That's GeoKNX Mobile. You essentially double click on that, and then a splash screen will come up like this. Again, you just have to double click on it once. It may, especially on the initial load, and if you've just logged in, it may take a minute for this splash screen to come up. Just keep in mind, once you've double clicked, it'll come up. If you keep double clicking, then multiple applications will come up. So just be aware, once you double click, it's going to start up. And then once it's started up, it's a lot faster. It's just the initial load, if you haven't started it before, may take a minute to load it. So just keep that in mind.
Just real quick, I just had a question. So basically, the print screens that you're seeing in the documents are actually off of Rhett's computer. So you may not actually have all of the same programs on your desktop on your laptop. So basically what you'll be concerned with is the GeoKNX Mobile. And it does take a good minute, maybe a little longer for it to load. So just once you've clicked on it, you know, be patient.
One more question. Do we need to load it before we go in the field every time?
You'll have to, open it every
before
time
we go out.
you work. I mean, you don't have to open it before you go in the field. When you go in the field, you can open it. Yeah, you'll definitely have to open it every day. When you're done working, go ahead and close it down.
Yeah, so you can open it and then just go do something, and then, so I mean, if you're out, you don't have to wait for it. You can do things, but once it's up, essentially it looks something like this, where you have a map on the right side of Las Vegas with grids or areas here, and then you have your map layers, and then there's the two key modules. Go work is where your work orders, basically that's kind of like your inbox for work orders, and then you have a go respond is for your service requests. So that's where those basically either work orders or service requests are located, and you can turn on or off layers on the map and so forth. You can close the application just by up in the upper right-hand corner. You can click on the X. This middle one basically expands it to your full screen if you want, and then you can also hit this. This one minimizes it, so if you want to minimize. So those are those are options for you in terms of you know, sizing it and so forth. So the key on the toolbar across the top, there's a variety of tools for interacting with the map. So you can zoom in, zoom out. This is zoom to full extent, basically goes to the city boundary. So if you're into an area, you can go back out. This pan, it's called pan or recenter, basically grabs the map and you can move it. So if you click, and you can move the map to any location. These two are just, these arrows here are go back. So if you've gone into a location, you want to go back to where you were, you just click this, or you can either go forward or backward with these two arrows here. And then there's also your GPS, so you can turn on your GPS and locate the GPS. We're going to cover that in a little bit more detail. If for some reason you're not seeing a map, there's this refresh map option. You just click that and it refreshes the map for you. And then over on the right, you also have address lookup, intersection lookup. So it just goes, if you know of an address or intersection, you get a call, you can look that up. You can find an asset using the find tool. So if you know for example, the manhole ID, the identifier really is to click on any asset to get the asset information or attributes about those. And then there's a measurement tool if you want to use that. Just basically measures the distance. And lastly, is probably a key one here, which we'll be covering in detail, is the select feature, which allows you to select your mains and manholes to create work orders in the field. So we'll be covering these in more detail here in a minute. If you want a larger map, you can just, there's a bar between this area and the map. You can grab and drag this either direction, depending on if you want more map or less map area. The other thing is you can also, where this bar is in the middle, you can drag this down or up to get rid of this information to give you more space for your work order. So for example, if you've selected Go Work and you're primarily working in Go Work or the work order section, you can just drag this down and then all you'll see is your, essentially your work orders in your list here. So it's just another way to sort of change the look and feel for yourself depending on what you're doing in the field. One thing is in the upper left-hand corner there, it looks like a little tool chest. It's called the application settings. Periodically, you may need to go into this to update your offline reference data and or connect to an employee. So if you've been given the laptop, and of course you'll get assistance with this initially to show you how to do this, but you basically click this, there's a server tab, and you connect to the server. There's going to be a default configuration here for you, and just this update offline reference data. What that means is that it essentially downloads the Infor data so you can go offline. And again, that's going to be initially loaded for you, but again, periodically they may do some changes in the Infor database in terms of some of the values. So that's just something that, in terms of updating your offline reference data. And then the other thing is your employee tab. If for any reason, again, that's probably going to be set up initially for you, but if for some reason the laptop goes to someone else and they switch to another employee, this just allows you to switch back over to your employee and connect so you can receive your work orders under that employee section there. So again, the key tabs here, server and employee preferences. And once you start to download the offline reference data, you'll see down in the lower left, the records will be coming down, and then once it's done, it'll just say service available, and there won't be anything else coming down. It'll just take a minute or so for it to download the offline reference data. And again, that's not something you have to do every day, but periodically you may be asked to do that, so just so you know. So on the interface, again, there's the tools for interacting with the map on the top toolbar, and then there's Go Map layers. This is really your basically all of the layers that are in your map. So they're already turned on for you, but if for some reason you wanted to either turn something off or, for example, parcels or something, you can just uncheck these and it turns it off on the map over here. So this just allows you to toggle, and also if you expand these things, then you can see, you know, what the big green are the sewer manholes, the sewer pipes, or the pipes there. And just as a note, if as you're working with this, you find that you need something else that you're missing in the map, we can get those added for you as well. So this is at least what we were told at this point to add into the map, but if there's other things that you need to have in the map, we can add those as well, just as a note. So as I mentioned here, for some reason, if you're not seeing a map, you can just hit this refresh, and then it refreshes the map for you. Here's sort of the steps for turning on or off layers. So you have these pluses and minuses. So pluses just expands it out so that you can see actually what the symbol is that's on the map here. So again, sewer manholes, green. By default, they're all pluses, but you can expand them out and see what it actually looks like there. So in terms of the core navigation, again, if you're zoomed in, you want to go back out to the city level. You just, this zoom to city limits here is this button. The second one is zoom in. So what that means is going into a location. and you have a couple different options. You can either just click on the map and it zooms in, or you can actually draw a box. And so you click and then you drag it, and it draws a box and it goes right into that area. Obviously the minus is you just click and it goes back out further. So again, if you're right into too close, you can use this minus and it zooms out for you. The pan or move map, again, you just click on the map and then just drag it, and it drags this, so you can go along, for example, an intersection or along a street, and you just drag it along that way. And again, these two are go back and go forward are these arrows. So it's just if you went to a place and you want to go back to where you were, you just click this arrow, and vice versa, you go this way. So just sort of back and forth on the map. Just a little tip so when you come in, you have to sort of know which tools are active. So what tells you what's active is essentially a little blue line around the tool. So, looking at this down below here, can we tell which one is the active tool? So it should be obviously the middle one here versus the others. So notice this blue line around this one versus the others. This is the active one. So if you click on the map, it's going to go out. So if you want to move the map or move it to another location, then obviously you click this one, and then the blue line goes around the hand versus the other one. So just keep that in mind when you're interacting with the map. Know which tool is actually active, because if you're trying to zoom to a location, and in the select tool, you're going to select something. So with regards to selecting manholes or selecting mains on the map, again, you pick the select tool up above, and then you can either do one of two things. You can just click on the manhole itself, or you can actually drag a box. So you just drag a box, and it should look something like this. This little blue cyan, this blue color shows you which assets are selected on the map.
I clarified for these guys, when they pull up to a site, the GPS will already have this located, correct?
So that's one of the things that we're going to be setting up on your laptops. As long as the laptop has GPS, they will be able to see the GPS. So what they'll see is, for example, if they're on the road, let's say White Cliff Avenue here, they will see it'll be kind of like a crosshair for their location. And so if they're driving along and they could see where they are, and then they could see associated assets around them. And so that's really just giving them their location, but they still have to select the associated asset in order to do something with it. So they still have to use the select tool to actually select an asset. The GPS is really just showing them their location, and it's based on their laptop location. So this helps them to sort of get an idea of their location as it relates to the actual assets. And just as a note, no one else is seeing this outside. It's only you, the person in the field that's seeing yourself. So this is really just for you as a productivity thing to be able to see your location as it relates to the assets that you're around. It's especially helpful if some assets are, buried, like manholes, for example, maybe buried under grass or something. You're out in the field and you can't see where it is, but you can see it on the map. So you can see, okay, here's the we know it's around here. I can see my location, so I'm getting close to that manhole. So it's helpful to find things too that are sort of hard to find out in the field that might be buried or covered with dirt or something. So in some cases you might find, and you probably will find, that you'll accidentally select other assets. You're trying to select, for example, 4087 manhole ID, and it selects the mains around there. It's not a big deal. You can have those selected. If you create a single work order, it's gonna give you the option. Actually, the default will be the manhole, and it'll be that single manhole that you're creating on a single one. But if you're going to create multiple and you accidentally, let's say you accidentally selected some assets you didn't want to, basically you can use the shift key and click on those, and it'll unselect the ones that are selected. So use shift, click on it, and it'll then unhighlight it. Vice versa, you can also add to by using the shift key. So you can, if you wanted to add additional assets, then you can use the shift key as well. So in this case, these two, you just wanted this manhole. If you want, again, if you're just creating a single work order, that's not a big deal because it's gonna just have this one as the default. But if you did want to sort of unselect, again, you just use shift, click on this one, it'll go away, click on this one, it'll go away, and then it just has that particular asset selected. So, and in the case of selecting multiple assets, say along a street, you can, the same process, you can either drag a box over all of the assets, so you can just drag a box over it. And typically you want to start in the upper left-hand corner of where you want to go, drag the box down, and then it selects everything within that box. The other way, of course, is to use the shift key, and then just as you hold the shift, you just pick on all of the ones that you want. So you sort of have two options depending on what you feel more comfortable with doing. And then again, if you select extra ones that you do not want, you just use the shift key and unselect those. And we'll go through those in the demo in terms of how to actually do that in a minute. If you're, you do have these labels where you can label, there's labels based on the manholes, but if you wanted to dig in and get a little bit more information about maybe the main that's between the manholes or the actual manhole, you can use the identify tool and you just click on the asset that you're interested in, and then it brings up the values for those in the list down here. And same way, you can either click on it directly or drag a box to get multiple. So you're not, and if you get multiple, it'll be a list of them up here, and you can pick the specific ones. And it'll, as you click it in the list, it'll actually flash on the map of which one you're looking at. I don't know how frequently you might use this, but there is a measurement tool. The default is measuring a line. So you click that, and then you just click on the map and from one location to the next, and it gives you the distance. There's also the ability to get an area or a feature itself. So if you wanted to, you could, this little plus sign here, you could actually pick this, and then you pick the main, and it'll give you the sort of the length of the main. So typically, if you need the length of the main, that's either going to be on the work order, or it's actually on the asset. So you can use that identify to get that. But again, this is just another tool if you're for some reason wanting to measure something in the field. So the other tool is called a locate address or intersection tool, and this is City of Las Vegas's sort of default address locator. So if there's anything that needs to be changed, we can talk with the GIS department, but basically it reads that, and then you put in either an address or intersection and click find. So if you know the exact address, when you find it, it'll go directly to that location. If it doesn't find an exact match, then what it'll do is it'll give you a list of different addresses to pick from. So, but again, if you get an exact address match, it's going to go right to that location. This is what it looks like if you're getting more than one address. So, like for example, I put in 12510 Norris Avenue, and it gave me 3 options, and then you can pick that specific option and then locate it, and it'll go again right to the map for that location. just going back to this, the other thing is you can put in an address or you can put in an intersection. Intersection would be street name and the and can either be spelled out and, or it can be an ampersand, and then the other street name. So, for example, Norrs Avenue and, I don't know, Main Street or something, it would go to the intersection rather than to the exact address, for example. The other tool that may be useful is actually looking up, for example, a manhole. So if you know of a manhole ID that you need to go to, you could click the find, this little binoculars. You put in basically you put in the manhole ID here, and then do a search, and it'll give you a list of any of those IDs, and then you can then go from there and actually zoom to the map for that asset. And this is, so once it finds it, you can right click, you can go zoom to, or you can select it, and then again, it'll go right to the map, the location, so. In terms of the GPS, so the GPS, one of the things that you may want to consider with the GPS is if you're using some of the tools like address searching or locating an asset or zooming around, you may want to have basically the toggle GPS turned off. So if you have the GPS turned on, it's going to essentially always be centered on your location on the map. So in other words, the map recenters itself for, if you're driving and moving, and if it's turned on, it's always going to be centered on that. And if you want to go to another location using either an address, or let's say you go locate work orders in your list, it's always going to sort of go back to your GPS if you have that turned on. So just keep that in mind. If you're always wanting to be centered on your location, then you have the sort of toggle GPS turned on. If you want to use other means of going and locating certain things, then you just toggle it off. So that's sort of what these the difference of this is that once you have this A toggled on, it's always going to be centered on that, and then once you click this, the next one, it's going to go to that location. So again, it's just a way of keeping in mind that of how you're sort of working. Is it always based on your current location, or are you sort of going out to locate work orders or those sort of things? So any questions about that in the GPS part? That's sort of what it looks like on the map. So you may have this little crosshair here, and again, you'll see it moving. So if maybe your laptop is mounted, you would see it on the map of the location, and then you'd see the associated assets around your location. Okay, so now we're going to just hop out, and I'm going to go through and at least demo some of the mapping navigation here, as well as some of the other tools. So let me, in the show, okay, so you can see I'm in the screen here. Over on the right is my map. Over here on the left, I have the various layers and the different modules, again, with work orders and my assets here. So I can turn off, again, you can sort of see these layers that I'm turning on or off here that are in the map or associated over here that I can turn on or off. So going across the top, I can do things like zoom to the extent, and it's going to zoom out to the city limits. A lot of times if you're out at that level, I may want to, say, go back to where I was. So I can hit the back button, and that gets me back if you notice here, I have little tooltips on each one that gives me information. So if you ever have a question about some of these tools, you can hover over it and it gives you just a general sort of tooltip on what to do as well. And again, notice the tools that are active here. So my pan is the one that's currently active. Again, that's just dragging along here, so I can go along the street and move my map to where I want it to go. I can also, again, zoom out just by clicking on the map. So with the zoom out, you just really want to click. If you draw a box, it'll zoom way out. So you just sort of click and it zooms out like that. And then again, the zoom in is obviously, you can draw a box like this. So I'm just dragging a box and it'll go right to that area like that. Or I can just simply click on the map just like the zoom in. So it's just clicking and it's getting in a little closer like that. So identify, I can, yes?
Can you
Yes?
size the left part of your work area, just kind of make that a little smaller so the map gets bigger? So they can see they can do that as well.
Like that? So yeah, you can just drag this over. You can have a smaller map, you can have a bigger map like that. If you want a nice big map. And also you can, again, drag this down at the bottom. So this gives you more space here. And then, again, you can sort of hover over these things here. So again, if you're focused on work orders, you can go here. And that way you've got more geography, so to speak, on your interface here. So again, identify, I can identify an asset and it'll bring up information about the asset itself just by clicking on it. I can also drag a box just like the others, and again, it gives me those, and as I click on the ones I just dragged over, it does a little flash on which one it is. So just another way to view sort of the information about the assets you're looking at in the field. I can do a address lookup here. Let's see. What is this? Sorry, I need to actually look at the address. Okay, so 11510. And just do a find. And so it just basically goes to the map for the location of wherever that address is. Zooms to that location. I can hit the back again. You can also do find as well. And so you can either enter in the value, or if you know exactly what you're looking for, such as you're looking for a sewer manhole, then you can just enter that in as well. Either way, 4086, do a find, and then it's going to go out and find these. Either one's basically the same one. If you notice, as I click on it, again, it does the flash of the location. But it may be that, again, your map, you may be in a different location where you're looking for that manhole, but I just happen to be in the same location. But what you can do then is right-click on, you can right-click on any of the manholes, or the manholes in your list down here, and then it allows you to zoom to it, You can do other things like select it if you want that way, or you can use the map selection as well, just by using the select tool up here. So using the select tool, again, notice it's highlighted here. I can click a way to unselect anything, so anywhere I click on the map, it sort of clears my selection. I'm just going to pan up here a little ways. And if I want to grab, say, these manholes and mains here, I can drag a box that way. So again, notice that I've selected, I really wanted from this manhole to this manhole, but I don't want these others here. So then I can use the shift key, basically go this route and just unselect those by clicking on them, and then it just gets me to the set that I'm interested in dealing with. Or again, you can add to that by using the shift key and then adding to that. So it can go either way. You can either add to it or you can subtract from your selection. And again, the selection set is the blue ones here on my map that I'm going to then be creating work orders from. So that's covering the navigation. Let's go back here to our PowerPoint. Any questions about the basic navigation? No question?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. All right, so moving on to work orders. So work orders, you have a variety of tools that are specifically related to your work order. So you can just starting from the left-hand side here, going across, you can retrieve your work orders, you can locate the work order or work orders. GPS stamp, that's probably not going to be used, but it's just a tool that's available. Create work order or create multiple work orders. So again, I'm going to be going through these in a little bit more detail, but there is a difference between creating a single work order versus creating multiple work orders. Modify work orders, so based on your whatever work order you have selected, you can modify it, update it. Adding costs, closing the work order, submitting the work order, and some of the other ones associating assets to the work order, viewing related service requests as well. Actually, this is supposed to be, this is actually viewing history right here, and this is associate to work order. So that little clock is actually view history. So based on your selected asset on the map, it brings up the history associated with that asset. So we're going to go through a couple of different scenarios or workflows. One might be from the standpoint of someone's in the office is creating a work order and they're assigning it to you, employee, or crew in the back office. And you're going to be retrieving those work orders that have been assigned to you. And generally, you use the locate, it gives you an idea of where those work orders are around the city or your location. You enter the values, you complete the work order, and you submit it. And so once you submit it, basically it goes back, and then it's back in the back office. So again, this is sort of your steps, and then this is the steps in the back office. So when you hit click the retrieve here, what it's going to show down on the bottom is it's going to show how many work orders are coming down. So let's say 10 have been assigned to you. It'll show those 10, and then they'll start to come into your into your queue here, into your list. And so anyways, that's how to retrieve the work orders. And then from there, you can open up the individual work orders, and it has basically the work order form with the values that you can fill out on the form. So everything's on one form. Just to simplify it, it's in just a list. We've gone through and tried to put them in the order, you know, the order of how you enter the information. But again, if you're finding either there's values or fields that are missing that you need, or there's too many fields or something, again, you can talk to us about that. And everything is configurable in terms of what's shown on the form. So once you have the work orders down in your list, you can select it and then locate, and what it does is it zooms to the map. Again, you can either do that singly, or you can do your whole list of work orders. So you're not limited to sort of locating one work order. You can locate all of them to get an idea of where they are that you need to go, and it highlights and zooms to that location.
Oh, hold on, Rhett.
Okay.
Has to be confusing to you guys right now. For the primary crews, you're going to go out there and you're going to go to this create work orders. There's a drop-down menu, and most of your work, you're going to go to the cleaning menu. And then the cleaning menu has half a dozen little questions here. And you're going to enter in on the cleaning menu. Was there a manhole concern? Is it settled? Is it broken? Does a work order need to go to Mark or Tom or Haley? And so you're just going to note that, and then if you note something, then it's going to flag back up to Mike or Melvin or Mike Coyne, and then they're going to assign it to either Mark or Haley. You guys, when you go out, you're going to do this one, and it's going to ask you a series of questions. The manhole okay? The manhole's okay. You've seen the line concerns. I'm not sure exactly what's underneath there.
Pretty much the same questions that's already on the sheet that we have.
Yeah, and so that's it. So what was on a scale of 1 to 5? What was the debris content? What did you pull back? Did you see any roads? And so this should take you 2 minutes, a minute, 2 minutes added to each run that you've got. That'll be 90% of your data collection. And so Melvin, you're likely to get emails from Rhett.
Right.
And they're going to come up not as emails now, or she can still send you an email, but you're going to have these customer service requests built up in yours. It'll be entered for you, then you will go out there and you will finish the work order once you've completed it. And hopefully we've got something in there for the other sand crews that you call in, because then there'll be something that shows what sand 12 did. And Mark and Tom, you guys can either enter these fix things if there's no service request. So every time you fix something, you're going to have to enter a service request, same with Haley. And every time your contractor does it. Now, you don't have to do it that day. You can take your billing back in the office, reconcile with your logs, or while you're out there, you have a laptop, you can do it out in the field. Just enter the service request and reconcile the service request with your invoice. And so it should all work simple enough that the way it's laying out to you is being laid out more from the technical format rather than functionally how you will do it. So as you watch this, you guys need to really just pay attention to the cleaning log, how you move around the module, and it shouldn't be too difficult for you.
Okay, thanks, Rhett.
Okay. All right, so again, it allows you to locate those work orders. You can also sort your work orders, especially if you have a long list of them. You can, any of the column headers, we can add additional column headers if you need additional fields to show the information sort of at the high level, but you can, sort on, for example, activity type, or maybe work order number, et cetera. Or you can also group them, so it'll group your different, maybe based on the activity types. You have different activity types or status or priority. Again, if you add the priority field on there, you could then group by those, and then that way you see them sort of in groups. So just a way to sort of view your work orders, or different ways, either by clicking on these column headers or grouping them into a group. And just as a note, there's this map selection, so if you have certain assets selected on the map, it'll also group those, so you'll know, okay, these are the ones that are, these are the work orders that are actually selected on the map versus all of the others. So just some things to keep in mind of how you can visually see your work orders, maybe differently depending on what, you know, either based on priority or activity type or what's selected on the map, et cetera. So this is now going, I'm going to go through how to update a work order form here, and yes?
Jerry has a question.
I'd like to see field guys, they're gonna create their own work orders when they go out.
Sorry, what was the question?
Hold on.
I'd like you to walk through, the field crews are primarily going to be creating their own work orders. And so to arrange this process in their mind, explain to them how when they go out in the field, they create a work order, they complete a cleaning work order.
Okay.
That's 90% of what we do. And
Okay.
then they'll higher level of activity for the crew leaders and the construction guys, and they will be more work order oriented.
Okay. So I can skip down to that section if you'd like, and then if you want, we can come back to this workflow.
Skip down to that section. The field crews are going to have to do most of the implementation. Will have a better understanding of what they'll be doing, and then I think this will have more benefit to them the rest of your presentation. Okay.
So I'll go ahead and I'll skip this workflow here and move on to creating the work orders in the field. Creating work orders in the field, again, you're going to select your assets on the map as your first step, and then you have two options for how you do this. You're either going to create a single work order, or typically my understanding is you're going to be creating multiple work orders, and that's really what we're going to be focusing on for this workflow. Again, these are the steps that you go through here. Select assets on the map, create work orders, enter values, and then submit those back to Infor. So creating work orders, you, again, select assets on the map, create the work orders, add the values, and click OK.
Hold on a second. Kind of catch up, because not everything has page numbers on it.
This page here.
Started with page 44 has page number. Everybody said it was page 44. That's where it started. Okay, and the other page is on that page. So, started on page 44. Find page 44, go work. 44, and the other pages don't have an active access. Find page 44. Let's go work. Halfway through, let's go work on the top. Did you find it, Michael?
Oh, they holding up something. Mike holding up something different. That's the start of it. Yeah. Oh, so you're looking at that.
Yeah. So go work to start, and
Okay.
The guy, Jeff, explained why there's multiple work orders. We have to be able to find, for record keeping, every manhole you go by. So for that example right there, you're not going to turn a corner, but let's say you're on the bottom manhole. You've got enough cable, you're going to spool up and go up two manholes. And so if we create just one work order, then it associates with just one manhole or one piece of pipe. And so when you click all three of them, it's going to create a work order for each manhole, and a work order for each of the three manholes, and a work order for each of the two sections of pipe. And that way, if we come back later, let's say the pipe fails in between the top two manholes, we get deposed, we get the record request from the attorney, we have to find everything we did on that piece of pipe. We have to have all the work orders for that piece of pipe. And so the reason there are multiple work orders is so that we can find the data later if we need it.
So those work orders going to be created automatically?
Yes, so you're going to click on all three of the manholes, you're gonna go to a drop-down menu, and you're gonna say, I'm clean. Right, it actually creates 5 work orders. Right, but it'll create 5 work orders, but they're all the same. All 5 of them at the same. There's a little button at the end to say, enter all together, right?
Yeah.
So whatever highlight working on is going to automatically create.
It's automatically created. All you have to do is go to create a work order, make sure you've clicked on the manhole, that you're taking the jetter out to.
So he's gonna.
Yeah, so I'm going to be going through that here to show you how that's done in just a second here. So,
Rhett, can you start back on page 44, please?
is this 44?
The one that starts with the demonstration, just kind of start your whole presentation of the demonstration over.
Go work
The one that says go work demonstration. That's that one.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on, because this is for the retrieving the work orders, so we're not going to do, again, we're not going to do this workflow. We're moving on to the actual creating the work order in the field.
Yeah, so the next page. There you go.
So the next page is where we're starting. This is where you're actually going from creating the work orders in the field. And so we covered sort of the basic thing of selecting assets on the map. And so based on your, okay, so you're good. I'll slow down for you guys. But so this is basically you're selecting assets. You're then picking either create single work order or create multiple work orders. So we're going to focus in on this create multiple work order here. This is just the workflow. So this is just showing you how you go through the process of selecting the assets, clicking the create work orders tool, filling information and submitting the work order. And again, this is sort of the steps, just in a different view of this, creating a work order. So we already covered this where we showed selecting the assets. So this is the first thing that you need to do is select your manholes and mains that you're wanting to create your work orders on. If you're creating just a single work order, this is what it's going to pop up and look like. It's going to pop up, just going to have one feature, which is going to have the ID that's associated, and then you have your activity type that you're going to pick from. The default is sewer cleaning is the activity type. One thing, again, just like the tools across the top, if you hover over them, it's going to give you information about the tools. So just keep in mind, you know, the create multiple work orders, you hover over that, it gives you a little explanation. Each one of those work order tools has what you're looking at, but the key ones are these two green, create single work order or create multiple work orders here. So after you have, as we showed earlier, all the manholes and mains selected, and you click this tool right here, it's got the multiple, create multiple work order. It's going to bring up a dialog that looks like this. And so it's going to show you the asset types that you have selected, and it's going to give you the number here. It's going to have the activity type that you're working on, and then it's also going to give you the list of the specific IDs that you can also reference on the map. So you can see these are the ones that are selected, and then from there you can either, you know, if these manholes are all correct, you just click the select all, or you can actually individual check the ones that, again, you can see on the map what's selected, but this allows you, if for some reason you selected one that you didn't want selected, this is just another option for you that you don't have to necessarily unselect on the map. You could actually just check the ones that you're wanting to create the work orders on, and you can check them. So it's either, you know, it's either unselect on the map, or you could go this route where you just pick the ones that you're wanting to create the work orders on here. And then once you're done, you click OK. And so notice here that it's now gone to unselected, so you could unselect them if you wanted to, but you just click OK, and then the actual form comes up, the work order form for all of those. like if you're just doing manholes, you could then fill out this, this work order form, and it'll go across all of those, and basically you could complete all 4 of those work orders at once. What we're going to show here next is that you may want to be doing work orders obviously on the manholes and the mains. So what you do is you just click OK. It's going to close, basically add all those into your queue as new work orders here. So there's all my manholes, manhole work orders in my list. I can still see over on the map I have the manholes and the mains that I'm looking at that are selected. And I can then just hit the create work orders again. And this time I just hit the drop down menu for asset type, and I pick the mains, sewer mains, and there's 3 mains. And so once I pick those 3 mains, it's then going to show me the list of mains that I'm going to be also creating the work orders for. So again, I have the option to do select all here, click select all, and just select all of them. Or I can check the individual ones here, again, if I accidentally selected a main that I'm not interested in. Again, it's going to bring up the form for you, and that form's for those 3 mains. Again, typically, probably what you want to do is just click OK, and then it's going to then have your complete list of all the new work orders that you created for this whole section here. So I've got 4 manholes that are in there, as well as 3 mains in this group of work orders. And what I can do now, and I could fill all that information out at one time by using this the modify tool. So again, first thing is you make sure that your work orders that you're wanting to modify are selected. Again, you can use the shift key to select multiple in your list. And then when you click modify, it's going to bring up your form. And again, that's for all of them, all 7 of those, your manhole work orders as well as your main work orders. And then you just fill out the information about those. So as it just sort of goes down in terms of your observation with regards to manhole concerns, line concerns, depth, material, etc.
And Rhett?
Yeah.
Turn the recording on?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
So you can enter the values as well as your costs onto the work order. One key thing is that is to add the linked ID, and that's sort of towards the bottom. The linked ID tells what your beginning manhole was that you started the cleaning. So you go to your initial manhole, you open that manhole, and then you go down the line and clean. And so by entering that, again, you can look on the map, or if you know that value, you just enter it. But you can look on the map of see the ID. You just enter that ID in, and then it's basically going to do some processes behind the scenes that auto-populates information, so you don't have to type it in for you. That happens behind the scenes. And then when you're done, basically you're going to click OK. And so you've clicked OK, basically have filled out the work order. You could open them back up and enter additional information if you want. But the final thing is when you're actually done with all those work orders, you click this X. It's going to close those work orders for you. It's going to bring up this little dialog that essentially puts your employee name. You just click OK, and you'll see that all of the statuses are now, those work orders are closed. And then you submit those, and they're essentially going to go out of your queue. They're going to be gone from your sort of inbox, so to speak. And you'll see down on the bottom, it's going to say updating 7 work orders. That's basically saving the work orders, and it goes back to Infor as completed work orders. So that's the general step for if you're creating, a whole section, you're doing a whole cleaning of multiple manholes, multiple mains, and just doing that sort of at once. Are there any questions about that?
basically, we're gonna have a separate work order for every manhole and every section of pipe that we do,
Yes,
Correct.
even if it is 2,500 feet long.
yes. Every asset. That way, Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong, but that way, if there's a question on whether or not we serviced it because of some issue, litigation, whatever, we'll have a record of the fact that, yes, we went through, we cleaned it, we repaired it, we did whatever on this date.
Now, we're gonna have to go on a drop-down menu for each manhole or in each section.
No,
We only have to do it one time.
you click, so basically you clicking each asset and highlighting it, when it has that drop-down where you're actually drop-down, like at that point in time, like that's actually creating the work order for all those assets at the same time. And then when you're doing that grouping piece, and you go and you do the modify and you're putting the information in for that one work order, that's filling in all the information that it will need for that work order and all the subsequent work orders at the same time.
As long as you're selecting the entire group,
Yes.
you can update them all at the same time, but if you select them one at a time, you gotta.
Then you would have to do them individually.
Now,
So you gotta make sure you put that linked ID in there, so when it gets back into N4, because there's some other processes, there's another process that's gonna actually go in and basically do the final edits on that group of work orders at the same time. So you have to have that linked ID in. If you don't have that linked ID and you don't, the date and time is not checked, it won't be able to do the process correctly. But yes, but once you have them all selected, you put your information in, you put the linked ID in, you close it, you say close it, send it back, then you're done with it. And you don't see it again, and N4 will take care of the rest in the backside.
But you want to do from every manhole you start at. So you don't want to do all 2,500 feet. If you're going to do 500 feet, you got to do that 500 feet. You're going to do 5 work orders on that 2,500 foot street. Every time you open a manhole, you have to count which manhole you're opening.
So basically what you're saying is this, you can't highlight the whole street, because I have, no, I'm just saying, I have streets that are
Whatever-
2,500 feet long.
Whatever section you're gonna clean, like when you go open that manhole to the end manhole, that's that section you're gonna create those work orders for at the same time. And then you, go to the next manhole section, go to the next manhole to do the next section. That manhole you open to the next section you clean through, that'll be another group
All right,
that you'll create at the
what
same
happens
time.
if you go out there and you're gonna shoot the whole 2,500 feet at one time, you can only go 1,000 feet, you can't go any further, you gotta pull back.
That's where they have to know how many feet is on their reel. So basically, they'll come in and start, they pull up to the manhole, they click, we're starting here, we're going to shoot, he's gonna select one manhole, 2 manholes, and that gives him 500 feet.
Understand,
that's
but what
that.
happens
So
if there's an obstruction that doesn't allow you to complete the job that you?
Then that's when they'll have to do the reports, the added modifies saying something was wrong here, we can't get through. And then they'll end up closing that work order, and then that work order gets kicked back to me or the others, and we go out to find out.
So you select to go through 4 manholes with 3 sections of pipe, but something's wrong with the middle manhole that does not let your snake go through.
Right.
How do you
So then you're
deselect
gonna
that second half?
you'll come back out, and you'll close those first 2, and you go back to the one that's obstructed, and then you gotta, when you get past the one obstructed, now you have to start all over again.
You clean first.
Yeah, you clean first and then you create the work orders.
Okay.
Well,
So
what do I do with that obstruction then? I walk away from it?
No.
If you can clear it, you clear it. All right. Right, so, but you've got to say on there, you got to say on your form, you do your edit, obstruction, something, okay, cleared obstruction, and clean white. Okay.
And that's a good point about it, Matthew, here, because this, that you're filling in is, you've done the job, you completed it, and now you want to log that into the system. So you typically wouldn't start by going here, then do your job. All of your job will be completed, then you'll use the system to fill it in.
So, wait a minute, you lost me on that one. So, do my job first,
to do that first.
So you're gonna clean
Then-
that section.
You don't know exactly what manhole you went through, you know exactly how many feet you went through.
Okay, so in that way, I can highlight the whole 2,500 feet.
No. When he says do your job, he's talking about cleaning that section of pipe. Like going in one manhole, go whatever to the, you know, going to
This
it
section,
or whatever.
you can only go so far out, you can't go your whole 2,500 feet like so. In sections, whatever you can complete
So,
until you move on to the next
For
manhole.
one rod shot.
okay, so one rod shot, so basically, we're not doing it by streets, we're doing it by sections now. Because before we did it by
Oh,
streets.
by the
Remember-
high section, and
By
that's
the
when you would,
Right.
the job.
And remember,
Yeah, that's
the
what I'm
section is manhole to manhole.
Yeah, I understand that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so you taking that
So
off.
whatever your rod shot is.
Why couldn't you do that? If you
That's
started
what I
this
want
in
to know.
the street, you go